Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the COPEC Daily Financial Wellness Webcast. We're doing a nice live stream today, and our program today is going to be what is financial planning, and our guest today is going to be Nate Quilter of Retirement Strategies, and we're looking forward to having you join us, Nate. And a couple little bits of information here before we get started. Today is supported and sponsored by COPEC, and from 2 to 2:30, we're going to have a nice discussion here with Nate about financial planning and how it can be an impact in your life. And then also from 2:30 to 3 after the program, we're going to leave it open for questions for anybody that might be interested in participating in that as well. Little bit of disclosure here. Due to the common leadership between Retirement Strategies and COPEC, we wanted to make sure that we get some good disclosure out there for you. I'm going to leave this screen up here for about a minute. Feel free to read through it. You can also see some of this information on the COPEC website, and we'll have some additional as we go. So we'll let you have a second to review those. Okay, and then as far as COPEC, I wanted to explain a little bit to everybody what COPEC is. It's a Central Ohio Professional Education Council, and it is a nonprofit 501c3 that we were actually part of starting back in around 2004. And the whole point behind it was to really get some education out there in the community without any sales, marketing, or cost to you to learn a little bit more about a lot of different topics. Over the years, we've had a lot of questions and interest in financial wellness areas. And so we've been working really hard to bring you different resources. And now we are doing what's called the Financial Wellness Portal with a number of different available education opportunities to you. So we'd like to review this with you really quick before we get to the program. First of all, where you came through today on the COPEC Education website, that is where the portal is, and I'll go through that in a second. But as far as technology-wise, many times there may be an issue with technology. If we lose you, sit tight. We'll make sure we get it up and going right away, but we haven't had any troubles yet, so we'll see how it goes. Again, open Q&A from 2:30 to 3. And so what you'll do is you'll just put your questions in the Q&A section. We turned off the chat. If you have to get us for chat, you can, but we turned that off as far as communication amongst all the attendees. Holidays, if you do tune in regularly, just know that we'll be off on holidays and like day after Thanksgiving, things like that. And feel free to share this with others. This is open to the community. There really isn't any tie into any particular company or restrictions. So feel free to share this, and we'd be happy to have you join us or anybody else that you may know. Real quick regarding the COPEC Education Portal, the Financial Wellness Portal. Today, you went through this blue link at the top, and below there, you could see the ongoing schedule. So every day, we have a different curriculum or topic discussion that we'll go over. So we'd like you to take a look at those schedules. If there's any particular speaker or topic that you want to listen into, put it on your calendar or just tune in regularly. And, you know, we've got a great group of people, which I'll go over here shortly. This is an example of the calendar. We go through Zoom, so this is a repeating Zoom meeting. So it's the same link, but with just different topics. And remember, there is no registration required. Just tune in, come and leave as you please, but we'd love to have you. And then outside of the daily live stream webcast, we also have the Retirement Decision Workshops. This is something we've been doing for about 15 years. And we hold it down at the Fawcett Center and at libraries and webinars. And it's kind of a retirement readiness program. Again, no cost, no pushing of products and things like that. But it's a great program if people are looking, 5, 10, 15 years out, getting close to retirement. And then the last is Financial Wellness Fridays. This is a program that every week from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock on Fridays, we're going to have all of our speakers do different presentations, the lectures that they typically do in the community. This coming Friday, we have Jill Spradlin, our CPA. She'll have an hour-long presentation on the CARES Act and various changes that are going on. And so try to tune into that. It's a great program, and she does a great job by getting everybody up to speed. It's less interactive, more of a lecture, but it'll definitely give you some information to chew on, that's for sure. If you are part of a company, if you're part of a church, an organization, a department at a university, and you'd like to have any of these programs, either you can share what we're already doing on a daily basis or the Financial Wellness Fridays, or feel free to get in touch with us, and we can actually do custom programs specifically for your group, and we're happy to set that up as well. So just send us a note. You can see with the red arrow there, there's a library of programs that we have, and there's many more that we can put on there, and we'll continually be updating those. And then lastly, if you have a particular question or concern that is outside the realm of the ability of doing it in this type of a program, if you have questions, concerns, life events, anything going on that you really need some guidance and direction, go ahead and set up either email us directly or set up an appointment through here. We'll basically help guide you. Again, no cost, no pushing of any products or services, but it's something that can definitely help you out if you're looking for some answers. So hopefully that is a good review, and let's go ahead and get to the program here. Again, waiting patiently in the wings there is Nate Quilter. Nate, great to have you. Nate's a CFP with Retirement Strategies, and he's been doing this for quite some time and really has a focus on this financial planning process. And really glad to have you here with us, Nate, and to talk about the financial planning process in general. Now, being that I happen to be in this kind of area of the industry as well, this has been a really important piece that I have found that we really want to get people to understand. That is the beginnings of really getting an idea of what you need to do for your own financial concerns, whether it's insurance, investments, legal. A lot of that really kind of comes around full circle to the whole planning concept. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. It sure does. Are you able to see my PowerPoint right now? Just to make sure.
I think you need to, yes, I can. Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me out today, and for all of these that are out there, I appreciate you spending the time to listen today. But yeah, as Jay mentioned, with financial planning is the big encompassment of everything. It kind of helps you make the decisions. Really, it's just looking at, do you have the resources to meet the goals you have? Is the simple way to put it. It's a process that's, that's a little bit more complicated than that, but usually the ultimate goal is just to, do you have the ability to be financially independent, or when will you? And that's the big question. And our firm where I work we're called Retirement Strategies, but we really focus on financial independence, not retirement. So once you're financially independent, you can do what you want. We have clients who are 80 years old and haven't slowed down a bit. We have other clients who are 50 saying, can I get out of there when I'm 55? What do I need to do? If you're listening today, don't worry, it's not your employees, but we do have clients that are eager to get out of their jobs as they're working currently. So the main thing is just, are we able to? And that's where financial planning comes in. So you've probably heard of financial planning before, but really, what is it? For me, it's a holistic look at your finances. So a lot of people will ask questions that are just, specific to how much life insurance do I need? Or I have $500,000, am I able to retire? Well, when you're doing financial planning, you can't look at just one area of it. It's kind of like putting a puzzle together. With a couple pieces, you're not going to be able to put that puzzle together. You need a little bit at a time, and then the whole picture kind of comes about. So there are really 5 focuses of financial planning, and that's risk management and insurance, income tax planning, investment planning, retirement planning, and estate planning. And it's how do all of these work together? Well, how do they all work together? We go through a process. So, there's a 7-step process as far as I'm a certified financial planner. And this is, how they identify the process. But anywhere you go, it's going to be pretty similar. And it's really the first start is where am I now? That's pretty, that's usually one of the easiest parts to determine. It's the rest of the part in the planning process that takes a while. But one of the most important things is setting goals. That's why I don't really like rules of thumb when you're looking at things that, okay.
Nate, can I interrupt real quick? You said, as far as where am I at now, how many times do you find when you work with clients that while in general they have an idea of what they have and things of that nature, but what do you find is the value of really seeing it put on paper, either for themselves, because it kind of fills in the gaps or the realities of what a net worth is versus what you think you have, or even between spouses, right? Because a lot of times maybe one person really gets an idea of what they have, and the other person, maybe this is shedding a ton of light and bringing them together closer as far as a common understanding. That's half the battle, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's a great question. A lot of times, especially with couples, one person is the one who really drives the finances and the other one's kind of in the dark. But even the ones who do drive the finances, a lot of times, things are scattered everywhere. And to kind of look at it in one place on, one sheet of paper, net worth statement, whatever it may be, it's really, a lot of times it's really eye-opening to people. They don't realize, I forget how all these accounts really do add up if you have numerous small accounts, or, whether it's on the good side of the ledger or the bad side, whether it's debt or assets, when it's scattered around, a lot of times it's hard to really know the full picture till you put it together.
What's maybe a common or a funny example of something that you found through that process that I know one time we had one where the beneficiaries were wrong or something like that, that all of a sudden it's kind of uncomfortable, if you will, but in reality, it's bringing a lot of things to light. Some people want to avoid that, but in reality, if you really want to be successful financially, you have to get it all on the table and really see what all your assets and what all the details are.
Absolutely. And even if it's something where you don't think you're going to like the picture, a lot of times, going through that planning process, you may not be where you want to be now, but at least you can see that light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll get there. And these are the steps we need to take to get on the right path to go where we want to go. Absolutely.
Right.
But yeah, beneficiaries, wrong beneficiaries, that's a very, very common. And a lot of people think, hey, my will says this, so it's taken care of. But, if the beneficiaries aren't set up correctly, beneficiaries supersede what the will says. So, things can, people can be surprised, when I was working and I filled out my, 20 years ago when I joined the job, I put my beneficiary as my boyfriend at the time. Well, that was 20 years ago, and now I'm married with 3 kids, and my ex-boyfriend is still the beneficiary, or whatever the case may be.
We've got a program tomorrow with Russ Gallo and the elder law attorney, and part of that discussion is about beneficiaries and things of that nature. And am I wrong? I mean, how things are labeled is probably one of the biggest errors that a lot of clients have, whether it's a home that isn't joint with right of survivorship, or whether it's a simple probate avoidance that they could have done, or what you just said right there, which is, no, my will says this, but the beneficiaries don't understand their own, I know that, servicemen or things of that nature, where they may have an old girlfriend on there. And they're remarried with 2 kids, and they never even thought about really focusing and checking in on those on a semi-regular basis.
Definitely, yeah. That's one of the most common ones I see. A lot of times, too, you'll see investment, an allocation that just doesn't match up with objectives. And whether those objectives are, what the plan is shooting for, or just what somebody's comfortable with. That's a pretty common one. That's just, the way they're invested doesn't line up with the way they say they want to be invested. So those are the two biggest discrepancies I'll see most of the time. And the good news is they're usually fixable in a short period of time if need be. Whereas, if you're if your goal is retirement, you can't fix that in 1 year or 1 week. A lot of times it'll take a long time or, years to get that right. So, one of those, the sooner you do it, the better, because those changes don't need to be as big when they're gradual instead of trying to get it all done at once.
Right. And I see your number 2 point there is identifying, selecting goals. And I'm sure if the financial planning process is the key tool, the key focus is selecting, managing, identifying, and following through on goals. Am I right?
That's absolutely. And a lot of people, I think, don't spend enough time on goals. They think all the, investments, insurance, these are the important things. Well, those are just, again, the tools to get you to the ultimate, the goal is whatever your goals are, and everybody's are going to be different. So that's why planning is really a customized thing. I don't really like those rules of thumb because, you hear them out there, but everybody's different. You could be sitting next to somebody who has the exact same job, salary, age, number of children, but their goals are completely different. Maybe they want a beach house and you want to, sit at the local park. Your particular goals, a lot of people just sit there and think of their life the way it is now. And here's what my bills are. And that's what my goal is. Well, start thinking about what, when you're retired and every day is a Saturday, what do you want your life to be like? And people have trouble envisioning that, especially if you're 20, try picturing yourself at 70. But as you get closer, it starts to get a lot clearer. But that's the one thing I say, goals, they can change every single year. We'll meet with somebody and their goals are this, that, and the other. And then next year we meet with them and the goals completely change because something happened in their life or, whatever it may be, those goals are going to change. So if you look down at number 7, monitoring and updating, that's one thing a lot of people, if you don't have somebody holding you accountable, whether it's a friend or a spouse or an advisor, a lot of times you don't keep making those updates and, monitoring it over time. Whereas if you are working with somebody, or somebody's holding you accountable, that they're going to regroup on those goals. Are those goals, what's changed in your life over the last year? Well, we need to adjust what the plan is because of those changes. But yeah, so goals are one of those things I always say, take your time when you're developing those goals because those are very important.
Right.
They're the ultimate driver of the plan.
Many times people have investments, they have things, they have, they're doing, but they don't have a clear set goal. And so they may reach that goal, but it is more by accident than purposeful. And maybe they could have done it 5 or 10 years earlier if they're more directed on that. And that definitely distracts them. Absolutely. And a lot of times the planning too will help you realize that you've achieved that goal. Sometimes people have and they haven't realized it. So, a lot of times the planning can help them realize that, or, a lot of people who are, financially independent are there because they're very frugal a lot of times. And, they don't spend that money. Well, a lot of times the planning can help show you, hey, it's okay to do it. So yeah, absolutely. Right. And really going back to the goals, then this next slide, the main part of planning, the way I see it, absolutely, is can you reach the goals with the resources available to you? So once you've identified those goals, there are all different types of goals. These short-term goals, sometimes you can realize that right away, where those longer-term ones, it's going to be a multi-year process to get to that point where you can reach it. And, here are the resources you have available now. Well, how are those going to change over time? When we do planning, you'll get a graph eventually that shows here's kind of the life cycle of your assets. And a lot of times it's an arc, and you build it up until retirement, and at the end it goes down. Well, what if it's not quite enough? What adjustments can you make? There are all different points along that spectrum. Right now we know where we are, but between now and retirement,
how much do I need to save? What type of investment returns do I need to get? How much can I spend? Well, then also those are things that you can change, as well as the actual date of retirement. You can change that. Sometimes it's your choice, sometimes it's your employer's choice, and you can't help it. But
Right.
that's an item that can change. Spending during retirement, investment returns during retirement, how much risk you're taking during retirement. These are all things along the way that you can control to an extent. A lot of people just think that, they're just at the mercy of what the markets do. Now, to an extent, we can't control them, but we can control different aspects of how you're invested and how that reacts to when the market does what it does.
Can we focus on that whole concept of financial independence through a plan that if you could set up a financial planning process for anybody who is, under the age of 50, definitely under the age of 30, could be under the age of 30. Exceptional if it's under the age of 20, but really, if somebody is like 45, they're doing well, but they haven't really focused on this. And I'm going to paint this out and kind of tell me what you think about this. In today's market, with the job market, and there's no guarantee. We've dealt with a lot of clients where they thought that they were going to make up their biggest earning years from age 60 to 65, but they were laid off at 59. So the idea that you can't control everything. What you can control is your own plan and your own financial independence, and making sure that, so let me paint this out again. So you're 45, and then you start becoming clear as to what you have, and then you have a goal of becoming financially independent. That doesn't mean you want to maybe or need to leave work, retire at 55, at 58, or whatever that is. And so if you work hard from 45 to 58, and that's your goal, and all of a sudden at 58, you are financially independent, such that if you lost your job, or you wanted to start a new career, or you wanted to whatever, or you became unhealthy, right? Let's say you have a health situation where you can't work, or disability or something of that nature, where you lose those income years, but you've been able to put yourself in position to do what you want to do versus what you have to do. You may work another 10 years to age 68 or something like that. I don't believe enough people really understand that differentiation between controlling your financial independence, so that just like when you're 20, you want to do what you want to do versus what you have to do. Well, at age 60, when you want to do what you want to do versus what you have to do, to me, it's kind of a similar concept.
Absolutely. It's a lot more fun. If you do choose to go to work once you're financially independent, it's a lot more fun to go in there knowing you're there because you want to be and not because you have to be. And going back to your point again, a lot of times people think there's that window between maybe 55 and 65. That's when they're going to do all their saving. Well, if you're 45 and you're hoping to retire at, let's say 60, I'd probably shoot for being financially independent at 55 if possible, just in case things go wrong, that 60 will work. A lot of times it's not your choice. It's, your employer makes that decision. Or as you brought right now with the coronavirus going, people weren't planning on being out of work. The companies are looking, some companies are out of business. Others are looking to cut costs. And so it can affect your jobs, things that you can't control. So going back to what you said, taking control yourself gives you that, that confidence and that purpose along the way. And it helps keep you focused. Kind of the same thing as if you're going on a diet, if you're just going on a diet for the sake of going on a diet, you're not going to be successful. If you're driven for whatever the particular reason may be, that's what keeps you from eating that food or exercising when you want to watch the Indians game or whatever it may be. You need that drive, and a lot of times, that looking at that end goal is what gives you that drive. And if you're not focused on it, you're not going to get there. And a lot of times, particularly if you're younger, you're doing more just general planning. You know, it's, hey, should I be putting money in this type of account, or should I be paying off my mortgage faster, or should I be doing the Roth IRA, or you know, the questions you're going to answer at 45 could be very different than the questions that are going to be answered during planning at 55 or 60. So again, it goes back to everybody. Every plan is a little different just based on the situation, and it's going to change. I've never put together a plan. I've put together a lot of plans. I've never put together a plan that 3 years later when we regrouped, or, you know, the next year even a lot of times when we regrouped, it didn't change. You know, a lot of times you put a plan in place and you get a phone call a month later that says, hey, this happened, and so we need to regroup and completely take another look at things. So it's always evolving.
Yeah, and one other thought that kind of crossed my mind, we deal with a lot of people that have state pensions, even some of the older pensions with companies that are going away, right? So if you go back 30 years, maybe if you're working in your 40, 45, 50, and you think back to your parents, they may have worked all the way till 65. They were guaranteed Social Security, they were guaranteed a pension, and they didn't have to overly concentrate and focus on because, you know, usually those pensions say, okay, when you're 65, you're going to get this much per month, and you're going to get this much per month, and they can get a feel as to what that is. Now everything is done in cash balances, IRAs, 401ks. There's no guarantees to anything really anymore, like pensions, and even Social Security. A lot of times, correct me if I'm wrong, you may not even include the full Social Security, because who knows if that's going to pay out at the full amount, you know, in 30, 40 years or whatever that might be. So it's real important for people to understand that the way it used to be done, you have to pull that and piece it together and create that future annuity stream and calculation, and how did inflation impact. We have to do that more than what you did before, which was, oh, I'm going to retire with full pension.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, the companies have shifted the risk over from themselves to you or the employees, you know, so absolutely. So the risk is on you, so it's more, you need to make sure that you know what you're doing when you are doing that, and not, you know, taking out an amount that's comfortable, you know, that's going to last however long you last, or longer, hopefully. You know, it's really on you to determine what that amount is. How do you need to invest? You know, if you're in OPERS or STRS, you kick back and collect your check every month. You know, they're on the hook for making sure those investments perform well enough to pay out their, you know, their recipients. So, but when it's, you know, yourself with that money in the cash balance plan or IRA, however it may be, you know, it's up to you to make sure that it's invested correctly, make sure that you're pulling out not too much, but enough to get yourself by. And so it's, yeah, a lot of, again, going back to the planning process, it's a lot of moving parts that go together. Even if you have that pension, you know, usually that pension is not enough to cover all of your expenses. So then it's, okay, with my pension and supplementing that from other, you know, 403Bs or 457s or 401Ks, whatever the account type may be, I need to supplement that pension with something else. And going back to Social Security, I do like to plan, even though it's a guaranteed income, I like to plan without that, at least run it in well, what if that doesn't happen? Because if you look at your Social Security statement, you know, it says right on there, they don't have the funds to pay out in full starting in, you know, mid 2030s. You know, that's only 13 to 15 years away, but hopefully they'll make the changes along the way that it'll be there.
Right. Well, hey, I want to thank you so much, Nate, for joining us and sharing some of this. Obviously, if anybody has any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out. We'll stick around for Q&A. I did want to show one thing, Nate. Let me make sure I can do this right. I wanted to share the upcoming calendar. So can you see the calendar here?
Yes.
So I wanted everybody to see, so in reality, every Thursday, if you take a look at the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th, we focused really on this whole planning concept. So you're going to be joining us every week. We're going to take this concept and throw it into OPR's 403B 457. Then we're going to talk more about the goal planning, financial independence. We got into that a little bit today. And then also goal planning, helping with grandkids and family and things like that. A lot of great discussion. So thank you so much for sharing, your time and expertise with us today. And what we'll be doing is really focusing on a lot of the financial pieces. And correct me if I'm wrong, whether it's elder care and insurances and taxes and legal, the planning process brings a lot of that all together. And so you can see how they all work together and impact each other. And you might push a little bit here and it affects some of these other things. And so we're going to have a lot of fun getting into those discussions, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So thank you.